I've been driving trucks most of my life. Started in my 20s, now I'm pushing past 50 with more miles on me than I can count. When you spend that much time on the road, you see some strange things. Accidents, breakdowns, storms that feel like they'll rip your trailer right off the highway. But out of everything I've seen, there's one night that stands above the rest. It happened in Detroit a few years back, out on Interstate 696. Middle of the night. The highway was mostly empty, just a few cars here and there, and us truckers doing what we always do, hauling freight while the rest of the world sleeps. I remember the road was quiet. The kind of quiet you only get after midnight, where your headlights stretch forever and the only sound is the hum of your tires. I had the radio down low, half listening to some late-night talk station, and I was sipping on bad gas station coffee to keep myself awake. Then, up ahead, I saw flashing lights. A couple of police cruisers parked sideways across the lanes. That's not unusual. So at first I figured it was just a wreck. Wouldn't have been the first one I'd seen that week. But then an officer started waving me down. He walked right up to my cab, leaned in the window, and asked me to do something I never thought I'd hear in all my years behind the wheel. He said, "We need you to park your truck right under this bridge. Don't ask questions, just do it." Now, I don't know about you, but when a cop tells you something like that at 1 in the morning, you don't argue. I pulled the rig forward, eased it under the overpass, and parked. I asked him what this was about, and he said, "We've got a jumper." That hit me like a brick. I leaned out the window and looked up. And sure enough, there was a man on the overpass, standing on the wrong side of the railing. Even from down below, I could tell something was off. His shoulders were hunched, his head was down, and he was gripping the edge like he was trying to make himself go through with it. I'll tell you straight. My stomach dropped. I've seen a lot of bad things in my life, but nothing prepares you for watching another human being about to make that kind of choice. But here's where it gets incredible. I wasn't the only trucker pulled over. One by one, more rigs started pulling in. The cops flagged them down and had them do the same thing I'd done. Park right under the overpass, side by side. Within minutes, there were 13 of us, lined up shoulder to shoulder across every lane of the freeway. From up above, if that man looked down, he wouldn't see a long drop to hard pavement anymore. He'd see a row of semi-trailers just a few feet below him. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to make the difference. And so, there we sat. Engines idling, lights flashing off the steel rails. The whole highway shut down, completely silent except for the soft rumble of diesel motors. The negotiators came out and started talking to him. We couldn't hear every word, but you could tell they were trying to keep him calm, keep him talking, keep him alive. Every once in a while, he'd lean forward, and I swear my heart stopped each time. I kept thinking, if he jumps, he's coming down right on top of my trailer. And God, I hope it's enough to save him. Time dragged on. 5 minutes felt like an hour. 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. I sat there with my hands gripping the wheel, staring up at this man I didn't know, just begging him silently not to do it. And while I sat there, my mind wandered. I thought about my wife back home, my kids, grown now but still the light of my life. I thought about the nights I've felt worn down, lonely, the kind of nights where your thoughts get too heavy. And I realized maybe this guy on the bridge wasn't so different from me. Maybe he just hit a rougher patch, or maybe the weight he was carrying finally broke him down. That thought scared me because it made him human, not just some stranger. Someone who could have been me or you or anyone if life had gone another way. The cops kept talking to him, slow and steady. You could see his body language shifting. At first, he leaned out, shoulders shaking, like he was ready to let go. But little by little, he started pulling back. One hand on the rail instead of two. Then both feet planted on the safer side, even if just barely. And then, finally, after what felt like forever, he climbed back over. Just like that, he was off the ledge. I don't think I've ever felt such relief in my life. The cops rushed over, put an arm around him, and led him away. He didn't jump. He didn't fall. He was alive. The officers came back down and went to each truck, shaking hands, saying thank you. I didn't feel like I deserved thanks. None of us did. We were just truckers doing what we were asked. But as I pulled back onto the road that night, I realized what had really happened. 13 strangers, all hauling different loads, all headed to different destinations, had come together for one purpose. We gave a man one more chance to live. And I hope he's out there today, alive and healing, maybe with a family of his own. I hope he remembers that in the darkest moment of his life, a line of trucks was waiting underneath him, and a line of people who cared, even if they didn't know his name. That's the night I parked under the bridge, and it's the one haul I'll never forget. Back in 2016, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina. I had just finished my last semester at UNK and was renting a small one-bedroom apartment near Merriman Avenue. I worked late shifts at a restaurant downtown, so it wasn't unusual for me to be driving home after midnight. Asheville is a busy city during the day, but once the bars close and the tourists clear out, the streets get unnervingly quiet, especially if you're driving into the mountains. One night in early March, I was heading home after a late shift. Instead of taking the usual route down Merriman, I decided to cut across Riverside Drive. It's a dark, winding road that follows the French Broad River, and most of it feels like the middle of nowhere. At that hour, it was empty. No headlights in front of me, no one behind me. Just me, the river, and the sound of my old Honda humming against the asphalt. There's a narrow bridge along that road. Locals know it. The old wooden one just past the junkyard. The boards creak under the weight of your tires, and if you roll your windows down, you can hear the river rushing underneath. I'd driven across it dozens of times. But that night, halfway over, I saw something standing at the far end. At first, I thought it was an animal, maybe a deer. But as my headlights cut across the figure, I realized it was a person. Someone just standing perfectly still in the middle of the lane. I slowed down, thinking maybe they needed help. Maybe their car had broken down nearby. But as I got closer, I noticed the figure wasn't moving at all. No waving, no signaling, nothing. Just standing there, facing my car. When I got within about 30 feet, I finally saw more detail. It was a man, tall and thin, wearing what looked like a heavy coat. His head was slightly tilted, like he was watching me from the corner of his eye. I stopped the car. The bridge was too narrow to turn around, and reversing in the dark wasn't an option. I'd risk going off into the river. So I just sat there, engine idling, headlights cutting across this man who wouldn't move. That's when I noticed something that still bothers me. His coat looked old, like really old. The kind of heavy wool trench coat you'd see in photographs from the 1940s. His shoes, too, leather, worn, not the kind of thing people wear around Asheville anymore. I leaned forward and tapped the horn, just a quick beep. He didn't react, didn't flinch. He just slowly lifted his chin until his face was fully illuminated in my headlights. His eyes, this is the part that still makes my skin crawl. His eyes didn't reflect the light at all. Usually, you see at least some kind of glint in people's eyes when headlights hit them. But his looked completely flat, almost like he didn't have pupils. I don't know how long I sat there staring. It could have been seconds. It could have been minutes. Finally, I put my car in drive and crept forward, figuring I'd either force him to move or squeeze past. When I was maybe 10 feet away, he did something I'll never forget. He smiled. Not a normal smile. It was way too wide, like he was trying to stretch his mouth across his whole face. Then, in one slow, deliberate movement, he stepped backwards off the bridge, straight down into the river. I slammed on the brakes. I didn't hear a splash, didn't see ripples in the water. He just disappeared. I sat there frozen, gripping the wheel so tight my hands ached. Finally, I hit the gas and drove the rest of the way across, not daring to look out at the river. I didn't stop until I was back under the glow of the streetlights in town. The next morning, I told a coworker about it. She looked at me strangely and said, "You know people drown in that river all the time, right? Especially back in the day, before they put up better railings. Lots of bodies found near that bridge." I've never taken Riverside Drive at night again. Even now, years later, I avoid it. Because I can't shake the feeling that if I do, I'll see him again, waiting at the end of the bridge, smiling in the headlights.